I'm Kate Lavut, and I'm an artist and a writer. I work mostly in graphic novels, painting and writing together in a book. I have 2 children. Yeah, and I actually started my own publishing house, so I've been publishing my books as well as other people's, and that's called Paper Dog Press. Well, I had just finished high school, and I decided, as most of my friends were going to university and following a good normal path, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do something totally different. And I decided to go to Mexico. But it wasn't enough to go to Mexico. As me, I decided to go to Mexico dressed as a boy. And I wanted to see if I could be a real person, not a girl specifically. So I took a bus across the United States and across to Mexico, and I didn't have any money, I didn't speak any Spanish. I slept on the beach, I met an old alcoholic, I slept on his front porch. It was a little bit of a crazy trip. My poor parents at home suffered a lot. But I went with the idea of writing it down. And I kept rewriting that book. I was thinking of making it into a book for 15 years. And then when I started making comic books, someone was like, well, why don't you put Chico into a comic book? And that's how I started with that. So it came out in little pieces. So I just put out like the first part of it, because it was nice to put out little bits so that I didn't have the whole thing to put out. It made it easier. And eventually I finished it and I put out a full feature book. But what it did is it let me see that a lot of the ideas of prejudgment were in my head. A lot of them, I can take up as much space as I want. It doesn't matter if I'm a girl or a boy. I'm a person and I'm able to live that. So it gave me the courage. There was a Toronto Comic Art Festival, TCAF, in Toronto, and they featured me as a new artist, and I got to speak on a panel with other artists. I got a room all to myself to read CHICO. So it was actually going really, really well. And then I also got nominated for a Quebec Writers Federation Award. Okay, right now I'm working on a comic called Content Removed, and that's about my experience with breast cancer. And it was a really big traumatic event, as cancer often is. And I was really lucky that we discovered it when we did, because if it had gone any further, I probably wouldn't be here today, to be honest. Well, for one thing, it helps me deal with the story of my breast cancer, because it helps me take it out of my own life and put it somewhere else. So it's a good way of separating myself and kind of dealing with what happened. And another reason is I want to share my story, and I want to kind of bring a little bit of humor into the tragedy of having breast cancer and of almost dying and leaving my kids without a mom. I'm Kate Lavut, and I'm an artist and a writer, and usually I work in graphic novels, making comic books and longer form comic books, and I've got 2 kids, Simone and Maëlle.